It was a real rocket ride, I'll tell you. We were either in the studio or on the road, pretty much nonstop.
I'm delighted to be joined by a man from one of America's greatest rock and roll bands of all time, the legendary Creedence Clearwater Revival. Rock and Roll Hall of Famer Stu Cook. How are you, Stu?
I'm very well today. Thank you for asking.
Oh, it's great to have you back, Stu. Nice to speak with you. Now, CCR, it's a name synonymous with 60s, 70s classic rock, a string of huge singles, a number one single over here in the UK. You've got chart-topping albums, incredible moments in history, Woodstock, and things like that stand out. It really is a story for the ages. But take me back to the early days. 1959, I think, was when you guys first got together as a band, under different names, of course. So just quickly, how did you all meet? How did you guys come together and form a group?
We met in the eighth grade, junior high school in El Cerrito, California. Doug heard a piano player, somebody playing the piano in the music room, and he went in and he found John. And Doug said, I'm looking to form a band. And John said, I'm looking to form a band too. And Doug said, I know a guy who has a piano, plays piano, and he has a place where we can rehearse. His name is Stu. And that's how the Blue Velvets were formed. We were an instrumental trio. We played school dances. Eventually, we played assemblies where they brought the whole student body together in the gym to uh, to see entertainment, to hear speeches, and get and watch, and people receive awards and so on and so forth. They have a whole program. And eventually, we became so well known in the East Bay, across the bay from San Francisco, we were sent to other high schools to perform at their assemblies, which is a pretty good deal because we got the rest of the day off from school. So that's how we started. And from the very beginning, we were in the recording studio. 2 weeks after I joined, we were in the recording studio because Tom Fogerty, John's older brother, was a singer in another band and wanted to have a career in rock and roll. And so he needed a backup band. And so that became us. Early on, it was Tommy Fogerty and the Blue Velvets. And then we changed the name to the Gollywogs when well, our name was changed to the Gollywogs, which is not a name we're really proud of at all, because it turns out it's a uh, racist term from the uh, Great Britain's colonial past. And but that's what our manager named us. And as much as we disliked it, we were reluctant to change it because he was the only manager we had. And and we finally decided to fire him, and that's when we became Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Incredible stuff. So tell me how did the group evolve then? Because obviously from the start there, you're playing piano, Tommy's the singer. So how did it all move around? How did you pick up the bass? How did John take over the reins with the microphone?
Well, I'm trying to find a starting point for that question. As we evolved, John became more and more. John and Tom were writing together, and then John started singing. And Tom said, you're a better singer for the kind of music that we're trying to do. Your voice is more suited. Why don't I play guitar and you be the singer? Well, by then I'd moved from piano to guitar.
Okay.
So then we had three guitar players. And so John said, Stu, you should play bass. I said, sure, why not? Nobody else is. And I can play one note at a time and get paid the same as you guys. So I said, I'll take the job. Then in I think it was 1960, 68, we changed the name to Creedence Clearwater Revival. And actually it was late 67, I think, right at the end of the year. And the rest is geography.
Indeed, it is. So in terms of the musically, then obviously you were playing the piano, you're playing the guitar, you're playing the bass. Is music something you've always loved? Were you always did you always find it quite easy to pick up an instrument and learn what you were doing?
Fairly, yeah. My parents were both professional musicians at times in their life. My dad was a horn player, trumpet, and my mom was keyboards, a piano and organ. We had always had music in the house, instruments laying around. Of course, the piano and the organ were always there. My dad had multiple horns, so we even had one that we left in the driveway, and one of my parents ran over it. Uh, uh, so I started on trumpet and then evolved to piano, with classical training. And then, of course, with Elvis and so on, moved to guitar. And my first guitar had strings literally this high off the neck, or they could slice cheese with it. But I kept at it. And then when the Beatles hit, of course, it was all about guitars. Beatles, the Stones, the whole British invasion completely reinvigorated the world music scene. And so we were drawn right in with it, like every other kid our age. And so I've always had a love for music and all genres, really. I go from classical. The only genre I really don't care for is opera. Uh, but I love the overtures, which are the pure orchestral part before the singing actually starts. So I love the classical composers, the Baroque composers, some romantic composers. I favor keyboard music, but I also love, I grew up on Ray Charles, Fats Domino, and uh, I love jazz, West Coast jazz, which is closely related to rhythm and blues, Cannonball Adderley. Uh, uh, so I will listen to anything that's well played. And I have no real musical boundaries at all. It drives my wife crazy. She says, "Why don't you play something I like?" I go, "I like pretty near everything. How can you not find something in what I like that you like?" She says, "I don't hear any Ricky Martin."
That's different.
Okay, there's one that I don't like.
We'll
Uh,
leave that there. We'll leave that there. So you've mentioned a couple of times changing the name to Credence. It's not a short, snappy kind of name at all, is it? So you've probably told this story a million times. So where did Creedence Clearwater Revival, the name, come from?
well, if you recall the band names in the late 60s, mid to late 60s, particularly out of Northern California, even anywhere West Coast particularly, but all across the nation. They were not your normal names, the this, the that. Uh, so they were actual proper names. Jefferson Airplane, Quicksilver Messenger Service. Of course, you had the Steve Miller Band, but we were looking for something that meant something to us, but would not be a clear, a lot of names draw fire because, well, what does that mean? How can you uh, why are you associating yourself with this or that? And so we wanted a mysterious, ambiguous character to it as well. And so I don't know if you've ever had this experience, but I'm sure any musician who's ever been in a started a band has that. Where do you come up with this unique name that you will be representing? And so that means sitting around for days, if not weeks at a time, rejecting. Oh, that's good. Oh, okay. Well, maybe no, no, not. I really don't like that at all. And so Tom knew a guy named Creedence that he worked with, a South African guy. His name was Creedence Newball, and they worked at the power company together. This is before Tom quit, and we went full time with CCR. And so Creedence, that has he spelled it with one e, and it means a belief. We added an e, so we're Creedence with four e's. Uh, we thought, okay, that's a good start. The Clearwater came up a few times. It was an early reference to the ecology. There was an ad on television that showed an Indian by a creek and a tear in his eye. And it was, meant to, it was a reference to pollution. And so that kind of imagery appealed to us. The revival was a personal revival. We've been playing together for over 9 years and had very moderate success, but we'd gotten records on the radio here and there, but never on a national level all at once, and never enough to break out that critical mass. Uh, and so the revival was like, here we go. Everybody's quitting. Everybody quit what they'd done. I just graduated from university. Uh, Doug and John were both still in the military reserves while the Vietnam War was raging. Tom quit his job. We have pooled all of our resources and we said, okay, this is our revival. We're going for it. And John put the three names together. Said, I think we should be Creedence Clearwater Revival. We said, that is a mouthful. It probably won't fit on the marquee, John. But we said, well, no one's going to confuse us with anybody else. And that name wasn't taken. So
That's a good point.
we went with it, and uh, then it got abbreviated to CCR by the fans, and or just shortened to Creedence, so it would fit on the ticket. Uh, but yeah, it was unlikely, uh, oddball choice, perhaps. I mean, but no one could ever say, how can you live up to that name?
Very true. And it definitely does stand out as well in history. And like you said, nothing really comes close. So you mentioned you'd had kind of local success. You'd had stuff played on the radio. I think Casey Kasem had picked up one of your records in the early days as well. So, but your first real breakthrough was Susie Q, wasn't it? That was the one that really got, I think it was your first top 40 hit in America. So from there, the trajectory just kind of seemed to go up and up and up all the way for the band. But at that time, the recording was relentless. I mean, the first album came out in was it May of '68 or something like that, and then by December of 1970, so we're only talking what 30 months on, 31 months on, or something like that. You'd released Pendulum, which was the sixth album in the space of 30 months. So, what was it like being within the band during that time? Was it exhausting? Was it exciting? Was it a mixture of the both? Was it none? I mean, how does it feel to try and keep up with that kind of release schedule?
It was a real rocket ride, I'll tell you. We were either in the studio or on the road, pretty much nonstop. Uh, when Suzy Q came out, we somehow made a friend with a guy by the name of Bill Drake, who was a radio consultant programmer. And so he programmed for maybe 30, 40 stations. So when he picked it up, when he said, you should go with this, there was immediate national activity. And then from the small markets, then to the mid-sized markets, then to the big cities, as we reached a larger audience, and it just kept going up. And the phones lit up, and there started to be sales. And he was instrumental in breaking the band. The record company was completely useless. Uh, they had they just put things out, right? Because they were an old jazz label, and that's what you did with jazz. People that followed that genre, a very small genre at the time, probably still is in relation, in the bigger picture. Uh, uh, they knew about the artists, and so they followed the artists closely. The label didn't really have to promote, but so radio really was our biggest uh, asset at the time, and so John had a fear of never being, if we were off the charts, we would be forgotten. So we were just, as fast as he could write them, we would record them, and A and B sides, and put them out. And then after a while, the radio stations started flipping them over. And so they actually killed the A sides on several of them to play the B sides. And so by the time we was ready for an album release, we had two-thirds of an album already recorded as singles. So we go in for a week or so, knock out 3 or 4 more songs, and then is back on the road again. That went on for, like you say, 30 some odd months. Uh, and then it was over.
Incredible success in such a short period of time. Famously, the group only had number two hits, or never managed to get that number one hit in America. Then that's what people talk about. You did have a number one, as I said at the start, though, over here in the UK. I mean, how did that feel to know that your music had crossed the Atlantic and become a number one over here?
Oh, that was terrific. Not only we had reached our wildest dreams in America, but to have international success was something we never even really considered. Uh, I mean, first it was to be successful in your hometown, right? And then across the country, and then now, I think it was Bad Moon Rising was number one in
Yes.
in the UK. Uh, and we had incredible success in Scandinavia and Germany, some success in France, Netherlands, huge in Australia, uh, bootlegged in Russia. Uh, but it was, I mean, that's when it really dawned, struck us that, there was something big had happened to us because we were small town guys with, I guess, in retrospect, small town goals. We really weren't. We didn't think we were shooting for the moon. Our expectations were always seemed out of reach. And then suddenly, there we are playing the Royal Albert Hall.
I was going to ask you about that as well, because that the video to that came out recently, didn't it? Well, in the last couple of years or so. I spoke with Doug
It's
about it as well.
actually
So,
that's
um,
pretty recent.
yes, exactly. That's what it feels it to me. So how did it feel watching that back then? Because there was a lot of footage filmed at the time of you guys on the road and touring, and then the actual show itself. So how nice was it to watch that back?
To finally get that documentary released was one of our greatest recent joys. Uh, the uh, the raw material had sat in the vault, since like 1969, right?
Yeah.
And there was arguments over who owned it. Even, I mean, it got to be so crazy that no one would touch it because we're going to walk into a huge war between who owned it: the record company, the band, the production company that originally financed it. It it never really, no one could ever agree on how it should be done until at recently, the fella Sig Sigmund at Fantasy Records became the producer of it, and he saw how it should be, how the band should be shown, and they spent countless weeks, months going through everything and trying to come up with the story, the best story to tell about the band. What's the best way to present this besides just a straight performance?
Yeah.
And there was a lot of good footage, a lot of the B-roll, the stuff, the interviews. I feel, I look at myself, I go, did I really say those stupid things? But hey, I was just young and dumb at the time, out of the country for the first time. And, I was in amazement by the world. You mentioned just a few minutes back that we never had a number one. We just had a number one. Have You Ever Seen the Rain was number one on the digital charts.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, finally, after 53, 54 years.
Fantastic. About time too. Absolutely.
We
Um,
did we did have several number one albums, though.
Yes, oh, many, many, absolutely, yeah, yeah, that's correct. Just another thing to touch on then, and I say just another thing like it's a trivial matter, but Woodstock, legendary, iconic. It's an event that's gone down in history. It's a real cultural touchstone, isn't it? Now, you
Truly.
guys were one of the first to sign up to the event, and when I spoke to Doug, he said that he believes that if you hadn't have said yes to doing it, then the event might not have gone ahead. At all because you guys were almost like the people that stamped it to say this is a thing that should happen and go ahead with. So what's your memories of that crazy day, that crazy event?
We did a television show. Excuse me. I think it was the Andy Williams show. We taped that in Hollywood, Los Angeles, California, and then we flew all night to get to Boston. We chartered a private jet to get up to upstate New York, I think to Bethel, and that's where the ultimate location of the festival was. It had moved around several times. It was always in doubt. We were the first band to sign, and I agree with Doug that it quite likely would not have come off had we not been had not signed up. Creedence was the number one album at the time, Green River in the country, and so others got paid a little bit more than us, but we were the first to sign up. We never got paid actually at the time uh, because we didn't demand cash. So we had to wait until the film was sold to Warner Brothers uh, to get a check for it. But that's another story. The day that we got there, we flew in by helicopter from the Holiday Inn where all the artists were sequestered, and we knew nobody. Our crew had driven all night with equipment, and so they were there. Equipment was on stage, but we knew nobody except Bill Graham's organization, uh, who was there taking care of Santana, who Bill got on the bill. Bill got on the festival bill for I think $700 is what Santana was paid, I believe. Creedence, I think, got 10,000. If I'm not, I've seen the contract on the internet, so that's how I come up with that number. But so Barry Imhoff was the gentleman that was taking care of Santana, and they had a trailer set up and cooking steaks, good weed. And so we just hung out with them until it was time to go on. Uh, wow, this is something. And then after the show, we helicoptered back, and the next morning we're out early because we had a show in New Jersey to play. But while we were playing, the power went out. It rained all day, half the night. Everybody was covered with mud. It was just a sea of hair and teeth, basically. And well, we could see people lighting joints out there. That's about the only light we could see in the audience. And we weren't sure who or how many we were playing for, but I thought we played a pretty good set. We weren't in the film. Fogerty said we shouldn't be in the film because we didn't play well. That's what he told us. But I knew we played well. And when I finally got a chance to listen to the tapes, I said, of course we played well. We always played well. We were basically a really good live band that went into the studio and recorded live and made records. So to eventually get into the director's cut, not the original release, but the I think the 20th anniversary or one of the anniversaries of Woodstock, we were finally included, and I think we had 5 songs on the in the film. Didn't quite make up for not being in the original, but I'm glad that history has now documented that we were actually there, and we headlined Saturday night, which was Sunday morning.
Yeah. So obviously it's difficult at the time, knowing how big that event would have been and the legacy that it would leave behind. So were you upset at the time, or was it just something, it was this decision made, whatever, move on, or was it something you were a bit upset about when it was decided it wasn't going to be included originally?
You're exactly right. Nobody had any notion that it was going to become a cultural touchstone, in the future. It was as you suggest that we just okay. Here's another one that was a lot of work to get to, and a lot of problems, technical problems, and logistical problems along the way. But there was festivals every month in the 1969, the Atlanta Pop Festival, Denver Pop Festival. There was pop festivals popping up everywhere, and to us, it was just another one, and a particularly difficult one, in terms of, like I said, the logistics. And the rain didn't help, but no one really, it wasn't really till the film, and then, they again, like the Creedence documentary, they had to put together the correct story
Mhm.
of what happened. And to me, Woodstock has always been about the audience, not the bands. The bands were just the soundtrack to what actually happened that over that weekend, which was a beautiful thing. Probably, a one-time thing, which is probably why it remains so special.
Absolutely, absolutely. Interesting question then. Looking back, what's your favorite Creedence album? If you could only put on one to listen to ever again, I mean, which is the one album you'd look back and say, that's the one?
Yeah. And that's a tough one for me because I love them all. I love all the songs. I love all the recordings. Uh, each one has memories. I'm better at picking songs, but I think I still favor Bayou Country and Green River. Uh, I think Bayou Country was our best sounding album in terms of capturing the full sound of the band. I thought the sound got thinner and thinner uh, once we changed recording studios and recording engineers, but they're still good. And but I think that maybe something was lost in the mix. Bayou Country, I think, really is a sweet, rich sounding album, and that was the one that opened the door for us as well. So that one has a special place for me.
Great choice. And just a quick couple of minutes on Creedence Clearwater Revisited then, yourself and Doug keeping the music alive. Obviously a project that you very close to your heart, a project you really enjoyed and you did so for many years as well. So just talk to me about that and why it was so special for you two to be together and play that music live again.
Well, Doug and I first met the first day of school in the seventh grade. We were like 13 years old, and we were in the same. I don't know how it's done in the UK, but uh, in the States, you have a homeroom, and it's done, and you're seated out. The homerooms are alphabetical. So I was C. Cook and Clifford
Ah,
were in the same room, and we looked at each other and sneered at each other, and then became fast friends for life. He's still my dear friend. Uh, so after, to jump ahead, after we'd been away from the Creedence uh, life for so long, no one was playing. John had refused to play the music because of some dispute that he was in with the record company. So he thought that by not playing the music would teach them uh, a lesson. So none of the original members were playing it. Tom had passed, sadly, and Doug and I said, what if we could put together just something that we could go out and celebrate our legacy, just for like play private parties, corporate parties, not do anything in the public. So we started rounding up guys that we thought would be appropriate. We ended up with Elliot Easton from the Cars on lead guitar, John Tristeo uh, from the band People, and Steve Gunner, who used to hang out with Belinda Carlisle and people in the LA music scene. Uh, and Ironically, we never played a corporate gig until years later. We ended up in Tristeo knew a guy who wanted to promote concerts, and so we played two concerts in the Pacific Northwest for huge crowds, but public, ticket sale concerts. And then we got an agent and a manager, and started playing in public, which was never our intention. And we started drawing more and more people, Creedence fans, curious as to what was going on. Of course, there was a lot of uh, uh, doubt by some in some quarters that either we couldn't or shouldn't be doing this. But hey, we always felt let the fans decide if they want their money back, which no one ever did. We'd be glad to refund it. And so this went on 25 years. We toured the world multiple times. Had a double platinum award album, a live for our live album Recollection. Uh, and so Doug and I were having the time of our life, reliving, having a second career, the one that was unfortunately cut short uh, because of the dynamics of the original band. Uh, and so we really had a chance to really get back into the music and really appreciate it and play it with much love for 25 years for Creedence fans all over the world. It was a great experience. We retired 2 weeks before the pandemic in 2020.
Aha, you saw the future coming.
Well, yeah, then the whole industry disappeared. There was no touring for 2 years.
Yeah, scary times. Well, Stu, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you and hearing your stories. It's been a wonderful time. You've been a part of such amazing band and amazing legacy in music as well, and so many other bits you've been involved with across the years too. So thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us here on VRP Rocks.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much. You have a great day.